why does a person feel like an imposter? I actually had a conversation with one of the women that I heard, she was talking about, I felt like an imposter. I felt like an imposter. And I wanted to get an idea of what did that mean and what did it mean to them? Because when you say you're an imposter or you feel like an imposter, what that means to me could be completely different than what it means to you. And so I wanted you to really know and understand, first of all, what does the word imposter mean? It means that I'm going to put on a mask. I'm going to put on a pretense. I'm going to put on some kind of image in order to deceive, you. Now, it's a deception. It's not for the sake of growing into, it's not for the sake of becoming, it's for the sake of deceiving. And so when this person which said imposter, I knew that there was no way she was an imposter, but I realized what she was saying. She was saying I was in an environment that was different than me. It was out of my comfort zone, and I felt like an imposter. What she was saying, I was in a different environment that she felt like was even more elevated than her status, and it made her uncomfortable. And that is a place where growth happens. And we need to say to ourselves, this is not imposturing. This is something that I'm growing into. And if you just shift that a little bit, if you feel like you're an imposter, you immediately want to leave. You want to go. You want to walk away. You want to run away. But if you realize this is what I'm growing into, and you feel uncomfortable for that reason, you feel uncomfortable at first, you should recognize when your biochemistry is going off and it's just clicking and you're going, I'm sweaty, I'm getting hot, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I feel shy, I feel like looking away, I feel like I'm hitting the shame barrier. But this is one of the things you feel. You feel ashamed, you feel like an imposter, you feel like you need to get away, you need to get out of there. People are judging you, people are thinking about you. All those things are rolling through your mind. It doesn't mean you're an imposter, it just means the data that you're referring to, the data that you're pulling from is not able to help you in that circumstance. And so if you understand that this idea of metadata is what she had. She had a metadata problem. Metadata is the data you have that refers to more information, additional information. For Christmas a couple years ago, I asked for some writings by Winston Churchill. My wife did a great job. She found lots of writings, but the one that I was really wanting to study was Marlborough, when he was writing about his ancestry, and he was writing about war. And so this book came in the mail, and it was something that was a part of a reference library, and so it was sent to us. And you see this little tag here, this little tag that shows the reference. I don't know if you can see it. It's got numbers there. It's not going to zoom in, but it has this ability where you can actually find this in the library. And the way you find it is there's information here that's locked into another little category box, a little box that has cards, and you used to see them in libraries when you were younger. Now they have them on computers, they just dial them out. And that's all metadata. It collects the data that says this is where it is, and this is the references that you want to pull from. And so that's what happens in our brain when we get into an environment. We go to a restaurant that we feel uncomfortable with. We're looking at knives and forks and things we don't know what to do with. Our brain's trying to pull references, but we don't have those references. So it gets into the metadata of your mind, and it starts to pull up categories and pulls up the cards and wants to talk to you about pull this book out. And in this book, you have all of this information. It's not the information in the book, it's where to find the information is where the metadata kicks in. So you feel uncomfortable when your mind is trying to collect data on it, and you don't have any information. So you feel shy, you feel insecure, you feel like an imposter. It's only because you didn't have enough information there to really handle the circumstance. It doesn't mean you're an imposter, it just means you have to now do more research. You have to now collect more information so that your brain can go on the shelf of the library and go, oh, you know how to handle this. You know exactly what this is. You know how to eat with that. Don't use that fork. Use this knife, right? Don't just use a fork and shovel it, right? It gives you all this data that you collect from. You only feel uncomfortable like an imposter when your mind doesn't have the ability to go to that card category, that catalog of cards in your mind, the metadata, and collect the data that says, okay, the reference of this is when you were 12 years old and your mom showed you how to cut with a fork and a knife and how to use a spoon and a fork, which my wife does very well from being from Europe, right? She taught her whole family how to eat properly. So that information's there. I used to feel uncomfortable when I would go places and I had to eat. I'm like a caveman. Well, no longer have that caveman scenario. My references are fine. My metadata is fine. I am really solid in my eating. really great. Other places, other things, other circumstances, I get into it, I'm trying to find the book. Where's the volume that gives me the information that I need? I never put that data in. I don't have that reference, so I don't actually have the metadata to actually pull from that reference, to find this little label that tells me exactly where to go for this information. So she's in an environment where it's very uncomfortable. It was beyond what she thought was her means, beyond where she thought she had the wealth and the position and the status to be there. But the realization is she's so wealthy in so many other ways. If she would pull on the metadata for these other ways and said, this is what she actually ended up doing, this is why I deserve to be here, this is why I belong here. But it took a little bit more involvement in going into that environment. And so this is one of the ways that I think I've seen my team grow the fastest is not when I do a lot of teaching, but when I immerse them in the environment that I want them to have. I want them to own. I want them to feel the culture of it. So when the number one hotel in Seattle was open, it was the number one hotel in Seattle. So we took and we spent a night there, and we did a planning meeting there. And that experience alone had references that took our ministry and our company to another level, right? So we have this whole framework that changed because we now had a card system that set up a new card system, that set up a new volume of reference that allowed us to pull from this. As remember, it's like this, not like this. And so if you don't feel comfortable in a certain circumstance, it's because you have not collected enough resources. You have to immerse yourself in it. I want to encourage you, there is metadata working in you, and sometimes we have to get rid of the old metadata that says, I belong in poverty. I belong in this discouragement. I belong. No, you belong in success. You belong in the best. That's why I hope that every single week you come here and you let me frame your thinking. I'm trying to brainwash you into becoming a barrier buster. I want your metadata to give you the right reference library so that you can move into any environment and become who you're supposed to become.